Good evening. It is 5:15 this February 27th, and the Carroll City Council is now in session. Would you all please rise and join with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Okay, on tonight's agenda, let's see, we have a roll call. All are present. Kyle's online. Under the consent agenda, I'll read it as follows. We have approval of the minutes of the February 13th meeting. We have approval of this cycle's bills and claims. We have one of me is enough. 5 licenses to permit, and that is a new 5-day Class C retail alcohol license for Carroll Hy-Vee for the Kemper Ball, a new Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service and catering for Wasted Grain Bar and Grill, a new Class B retail alcohol license for Chemist Carroll Country Store number 15, renewal of a Class E retail alcohol license for Casey's General Store number 3802, and finally, a new cigarette permit for Beer 30 of Carroll. We also have in the consent agenda a memo for a street closure for the Carroll Chamber of Commerce Live and Locals. And that concludes tonight's consent agenda. I would seek a motion to approve the agenda if there are no further questions.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Tom and second by JJ. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Base? Yes. Seaman?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Schreck? Yes. Dirks?
Yes.
And I don't think Kyle can hear us right now.
Uh-oh, okay.
Kyle, can you hear us okay?
Bear with us a moment, folks.
So if you unmute yours, we're gonna get that feedback.
I believe so. Okay, we're off. Yeah.
He says he can hear now.
You can?
Yep.
Okay.
Kyle, can you hear us?
You're muted, Kyle, if you can unmute quickly.
Kyle, unmute and say something if you would, please.
Maybe we can have him call in.
Yeah, you want to just call in? Do you have him or shall I?
I can do it.
Okay. That's fine. No sweat. Kyle, we're going to phone you.
I don't know if he can hear us or not. I'm going to send him a message first.
Okay.
You'll have to call the number that was in the,
Can you call the phone number that was listed on your Zoom link? ?
no, actually, sorry, have him call your number
Okay.
and then put your phone on speaker.
He's unmuted now. Now he's back. He was just a minute ago. There, he's unmuted now.
Kyle, Kyle, can you hear us? Okay. Can you call my cell phone? ? Kyle?
Jeff.
Okay, sorry, I don't know what, we're having a technical difficulty. Can you hear us okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, very good.
It was going in and out. I get bits and pieces, and then that was it, and then there was nothing. So.
Okay. If this will work, we'll go this way.
Yep.
Do you need his vote on the consent agenda?
If you would like to vote yes.
You want to vote to approve tonight's consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, we will move to item number 4 on tonight's agenda. This is oral requests and communications from the audience. And this is a time that members of the audience are allowed to approach the council on any item that is not on tonight's agenda. Are there any? Hearing none, we'll move forward then. Item number 5 on tonight's agenda is, under ordinances, is a rezoning request from A2 Agricultural District with an AP overlay to I2 General Industrial District, is what that reads. So, Laura, I have 521, and I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing for this. And Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, very good. Basically, we're here tonight. Dick and Marcy Wernemont, who are here with us tonight, have requested to rezone 2 parcels of property that are described below from what is currently an A2 district with an AP or agricultural preservation overlay to an I2 or general industrial district. We've listed the boundary descriptions for both of those parcels below. And I guess at this point, what I think we would probably do is have Dick or Marcy or Matt, whoever wants to present what you want to do, why you want to do it, where you want to do it, and then we'll open it up to the public for comments for or against. Is that okay?
Yep.
Just for the record, Colin, why don't you guys both, who you are and certainly your address.
Yeah, I am Colin Wernemont. I'm the son of Dick and Marcy Wernemont. And me and my dad are working together on a manufacturing business and farming together, so.
Okay, and then your counsel?
Want addresses?
No, just who you
Matt
are.
Hartone.
Yeah, we know you're representing, and
Thank you.
Cedar Rapids,
Cedar Rapids,
close
yes.
enough?
Thank
Okay,
you, Mayor.
perfect. Go ahead, Colin. Thank you.
If I can get this set up quick, please.
Hey, you gave us time, we'll give you time.
I'm ready when you guys are.
Go right ahead. Well, as soon as this, okay. It's coming here.
Do we have a more technical?
I don't know why it's not picking it up.
It should be. This is how I've done it in the past.
Laura, what if we use the camera?
Use the red dot.
I know, that's what my thought is. Okay, so
Put it on
whatever
the
this
screen.
is, let me turn it
Yep.
on.
So what we are doing here is we're trying to rezone a property so we can build a new shop facility on it, right across the road from my parents' place here, as you can see. We're just frankly running out of room in the facility that we were in, and we were trying to improve our conditions, by doing so. As you can see, we've talked to our neighbors, and none of them seem to have any reason why they should oppose it. Right here is the 42 acres we were rezoning, with the neighbors around it, Sharpenkamp, our property, the Warnemonts, Von Qualens, and Brinks's. This is the proposed area where we would be building the property, or within the zoning area. There's a square in here that is the proposed building to scale, so that is, just the amount of ground that we would be taking up out here for the building site in itself. As you can see, my parents' place is here. So, literally right across the road. The facility that we use at the moment is right here on the property. This is just a sample of what the potential building would look like. It's just a Morton building, tin building, like any other farm facility would look as you drive through the countryside. The gator represents where the building would potentially be built. This is looking north. As you can see, there are cattle confinements on the other side, or across the road from the ground that this is on. This is to the west of the building site. As you can see, the old county home is right here, or right over the hill. You can't really see it. And then this is to the north, or the south, looking toward Carroll. So as you can see, you can't even see Carroll from the proposed building site, or the whole property entirely. So again, this is another map that just shows where the building would potentially lay, and then it just gives an idea of where. Oh, sorry, next one. This one gives an idea of where it is in relative to Carroll. So as you can see, the Carroll Middle School is in the bottom left-hand corner. We are, a mile as the crow flies away from it. So some of the things that we would do in this potential facility are working on our own ag equipment. As you can see, this is my dad's field cultivator. It's 53 foot wide, and I took this picture to compare it to our facility that we have now. The shop we have now is 40 by 120. So this piece of equipment is nearly half, the width of this piece of equipment is nearly half the length of our current facility. So we cannot even drive this or park it inside to work on it. That's why it's outside right now, actually. It's because we were working on it in the cold. And these are the things that we're looking to do in our new facility. Make it a little easier to manage. We will be doing some small manufacturing within it as well. So we currently make parts for John Deere DV series planters, and we haul them all to Peyton, Iowa. Some of the parts that we make are this marker arm here, the manifold along this wing. There's a stair bracket right here that holds the stairs up, and then there's a small light bracket. All of these parts are small enough that I could pick them up, under my own power. So nothing we're doing in there, as far as the manufacturing is concerned, is I would consider major. Like, we're not building the frame of this or anything in that sort of era. This is just to show what our current facility looks like on the inside. As you can see, we're working on a tractor here. We have raw material laying right here, and there is hardly room for two people to walk side by side between the tractor and the raw material. We're getting crammed, so that's just kind of why we're looking to expand a little bit. And this is also stuff that we would do within our new facility, is working on our own equipment, like I said before. So, we work on all of our own tractors and everything like that. So most of what we do within that facility will be, ag related on the farm side of what we do, because my dad does farm as well. So, and that's kind of my presentation.
Want to talk about jobs?
The facility, when the manufacturing part of it, we would create, I have a full-time guy in Audubon right now, so that's one job that if this were to move to Carroll, we'd have one more job in Carroll for certain.
Once you talk about Audubon, then talk about how you're bringing everything together.
Yeah, we're just trying to, what the facility will do mainly is just consolidate what we are, doing already. Because half of the equipment that we use is in Audubon, and then my dad does the welding in Carroll. So we are just trying to bring all that together underneath one roof, so that it's just a little bit more convenient for us and to hopefully benefit Carroll as much as it does us in the long run.
Colin, just to be clear, the one job that you talked about from Audubon, that's somebody else, and then will you be working in the facility too?
Yes,
So there's two, and then did you mention a part-timer as well?
I have a part-time guy in Audubon that does deliveries for me once a week as
Okay.
well.
So two full-time and possibly a.
Yeah, possibly a third one.
Okay, all right.
Anything else?
I suppose in addition to add on to Colin's comments, I think it's understandable the council may ask, you know, what is this going to do to city services? What's the imposition on the city? Which is in large part what the, you know, future land use planning involves. In this case, there will be no imposition on city services. Dick is going to bring the power in on his own. He'll have his own water and with a well and his own septic system. And he'll sprinkle the building in accordance with the building code. So, you know, it's not as if they're asking for an extension of a sanitary sewer pipe for 2 miles on a road, something like that. This is, again, it's self-sufficient. And, you know, I guess when I look at this, I was out at the Wernemont's farm today. To look at it, this new building is something they could build and just work on with their own, for their own farming needs. And it would be more or less the same activity that they are doing now, except it's doing it for themselves as opposed to selling to John Deere. And so I would ask the council to, you know, follow the spirit of the law here and do what is common sense and approve the ordinance. We appreciate your consideration.
Very good. Go ahead.
It should
Carl.
also be noted that we are only trying to rezone because it was recommended by city staff, not because we originally came to the city asking for a building permit and we were told that we had to rezone. And then we tried to go into accordance to the rezoning, and then we were told that it was spot zoning. So we are just doing our due diligence to try to make this work with you guys.
Okay. Anything else to add for right now?
No.
Okay. Does the council have any questions while these guys are up here that would you like to address directly to them? And not that we couldn't later, but just while they're up here and while we're on the subject before I open it up.
I have a quick question for your attorney. You just asked us to follow the spirit of the law. What law are you alluding to?
To the zoning, because I think that as the council's, the memo from the city attorney, I think recites the law very well. And in one perspective, you might look at this and you might say this is spot zoning. It's illegal, inconsistent with the comp plan. But a court is going to grant great deference to this body, and absent any sort of manifest error, a court would uphold the decision of the council. And so I'm saying, well, let's just do what makes sense here, and approve it.
Okay.
But it's the zoning code in particular that I'm referencing.
Kyle, you said you interviewed your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
What type of radius around your place, mile, half mile? What would you, I don't know, how far did you go?
Everybody that butted up to the property and was within 200 feet, I believe, is what the application suggests. It is also, it should also be noted that my dad owns the ground, you know, right, that, I don't know if I'm outlining this correctly,
Yep.
right here and over, you know, and behind our place. So there is, I mean, a 1/4 mile radius of property that we own, you know, from where this building will lie. So there'll be a buffer, I guess, is what I'm suggesting.
Anyone else?
How much manufacturing are you doing in this building as opposed to your own agricultural stuff?
The square footage would probably be split 50-50, but as far as the hours or the amount of labor going into manufacturing versus the amount of labor going into working on the agricultural side, it'd probably be 40-60%. So 60% of it going toward agriculture, 40% going toward manufacturing. It should also be noted that the same machines that we use for this manufacturing process, we also use to work on our own equipment. So like when we were, you know, tearing that tractor apart, as I showed in those pictures, there might be certain parts within that engine that we need to manufacture ourselves because we can either do it more cheaply than what we can buy them for or in a more timely fashion. So it all kind of intertwines together.
So this all started at a very small.
Very
idea.
small scale.
Where's your future going? Where do you think?
Personally, I would like to see it maybe grow a little bit, but I would not want more than 10 employees for my own personal sake, just because I would just like to keep it small and keep it nimble, and for lack of a better word. I don't want to run a Pella or a big factory. Kind of watching what, the growth of Von Bauer, I kind of could see that would be probably a huge undertaking, and I don't know if I want to have that weight on my shoulders. Not that it would ever even get to that scale, but just a comparison. Yeah. We will
Down there's a
see.
big company, they could ask you to make something brand new.
Yeah.
Colin, one question that has come up over the last week or so, you've got two parcels of land here. You're showing the building on the southernmost of the two parcels.
Yep.
And according to the descriptions that your surveyor had given us, the first one was 20.6 acres, more or less.
Yep.
The other was 24.1, more or less, so 44.7, more or less. Why do you need such a big chunk to do this building?
Originally, I'll pull up this picture if it's the right one.
And that, I think that picture that you showed us too is in the council packet, if the council can't
Yes,
see it
it
clearly.
is correct. That's
Yeah.
actually where I pulled it from.
Oh,
So
okay.
this picture is originally what we wanted to zone, or rezone, excuse me. So the reason we went with the 42 acres, or in other words, all of the ground my dad owns on that property that butts up to the paved road. The reason we went with all of that ground is because when originally we were told it was a spot zoning, we thought it might be more palatable to rezone the 40 acres and to split it into two parcels. That's purely the reason we did that. Our intention was not to, resell it or anything like that. And then we were just gonna farm it along with the rest of it. So,
Because one of the concerns that was expressed was that although your neighbors currently are okay with this 15,000 square foot building for that purpose, if it's rezoned to I-2, it would allow any purpose that's currently allowed under I-2 or I-1, some of which are sewage lagoons and junkyards and things like that. So one of the questions was, what if down the road something went into that northern parcel that the neighbors didn't like? If it's zoned that way, we couldn't prohibit
right,
it.
and if it is more appealing to the city for us to rezone a smaller parcel, we will do so.
Yeah, I don't know if it is or not. It's just a question that had come up, so I thought I would ask, so.
Right, that's purely the only reason why we did that, was just to make it a little bit more, what we thought would make it more palatable.
And
We
then
were
too,
advised that.
on the southern parcel where you've got the building located, if I remember correctly, the red line at the bottom, is that the end of the property, at the very bottom of the screen?
No, it is not. The property extends, probably another 300 feet beyond that,
Beyond the red line or the blue line?
beyond the red line.
Which property are you talking about?
Well,
yeah,
you've
what
got two
property?
parcels there. Yeah, there, thanks, Dick. Yeah, no, go down from there.
Down,
This one?
Yeah, is that part of that second parcel?
It Probably, this would be Van Quinn.
It is.
so it's probably
No, on the other side of the road.
It probably,
excuse me, yes, that is
So
the,
you're splitting this, the lower parcel.
yes, what we were actually doing was we were splitting the parcels. There's a grass strip right here.
Uh-huh,
We were splitting the parcels at that grass strip.
okay.
And then it runs to the south, the second parcel, somewhat equidistant to the first parcel.
Okay, all right. Okay, thanks.
Colin, I'm thinking, I understand where you're coming from, and unfortunately, we're stuck, and your lawyer mentioned the zoning. And we are between a rock and a hard spot here, and I've mentioned this to people who called me about this, but we have to deal with the current zoning situation. We are mandated to draw up a comprehensive plan, and that plan, then we draw up our zoning ordinance. Our zoning ordinance is the law. So for me, we're being asked, because of what we have now in our current zoning ordinance based on our comprehensive plan, which is the policy that is implemented in our ordinances, for me, our hands are tied. We would be breaking our own law, which all planning and zoning experts tell us our zoning ordinance is the law. And I think there could be other paths forward for you, but, and this is nothing personal, I admire your drive and wanting to improve things, but we're stuck with our comprehensive plan and our zoning ordinance as it is. And you're asking us to break our own law. And you are, and because we are stuck with the A2, Jeff brought up concerns about, situations, then we will open ourselves up to a whole Pandora box of, well, why can't we spot zone for this here and that over here? And this general industrial district, it is set up for a lot of things that people wouldn't want to live by, because we're granting a spot zoning situation. And hot mix asphalt, landfill, sanitary landfills, sewage lagoons, stockyards, junkyards, wrecking yards. And if we make this exception to our own law, we're opening ourselves up to, then our zoning ordinance is meaningless. You know what I'm saying? I think with some thought, maybe we all could work together and help you with the path forward. But I, for one, do not want to break the law. And secondly, I do not want to set the city up for litigation, because we did this. And how do we turn down someone who maybe even near you wants to do some of these things that are listed in the general I-2? And part of the rationale for this zoning is that the intent is to create a district and preserve an area for industrial-related uses of such nature they require isolation from other kinds of land uses. These are, the whole reason that the Code of Iowa requires us to have a comprehensive plan. The number one reason is to protect people like you that farm. And the number one reason is to preserve the availability of ag land. This zone, and especially when you're in an overlay zone, and I've been on the council a while, I remember when this came through and people were very happy about it. So it's doubly layered, because in an overlay, you are protecting the zoning that is under the overlay, but you're also saying we're going the extra yard to require purchasing at least 20 acres in this overlay zone, so that you're protecting and preserving ag land. So this is the position I found myself in. I, for one, do not want to break the law, as I said, and set us up for future litigation, because we might have to turn someone else down. This isn't, you feel what you're doing is benign, but when you look at what we're opening ourselves up to with general industrial district, these things are not benign, and it's all about industrial activities and has nothing to do with the Code of Iowa saying the number one goal of a comprehensive plan is to preserve ag. And that's in 414.3, which our attorney cited. So that's where I'm being honest, that's where I'm coming from, but maybe there is another path forward for you guys. So, yeah,
Thanks, Carolyn.
yeah.
I think if there's nothing else from the council for these guys right away, I think this being a public hearing, I think we'll move on to the next step, and you're excused for now. And we might have a follow-up question for you, but unless you guys have anything more to add while you're there. But we're going to open it up to the public.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
I appreciate yours too. Thank you. I think we'll move forward with the next step, and that is if there are any in attendance that wish to speak on behalf of the councils to consider this for rezoning, I would ask you to come forward and, like always, your name and your address. And then in the respect out of everybody's time, I'm going to ask that we limit these comments to about 2 minutes or so. And then after this, we will have anybody that wants to speak against it equally as well. And then one small little caveat to it, once again, in the essence of time, I would only ask that people come forward if they have a point that they want to make that has not already been made before. Okay? We just don't need to hear the repetitive thing over and over again on either side of this. So again, the purpose of this is not to stifle this part of the public hearing because it's very important, but most importantly, it's to facilitate it so that those that are willing to have a say for or against would have an opportunity in a timely fashion. So who wants to be the first contestant and speak on behalf of its consideration or in favor of the rezoning? Would there be a person that would like to start that off? Yes, sir.
My name is Ben Puck. I'm from Manning, and I'd like to speak on behalf of Colin. Colin happens to be a young entrepreneur, and we started a little business down in our area about 40 years ago, and has gratefully grown to the point we have 105 people showing up for work every morning. The cooperation of Audubon County and Carroll and the city of Manning has been unbelievable for us. And at some point, you know, when you go from farming to shearing sheep to pumping liquid manure, things happen. And we've had the foresight in our community to allow us to do that. And I'd like for everyone to give Colin the same consideration if they can. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Anyone else in favor?
Hi, my name is Michelle Pritchard. I am the Vice Chairperson of the Planning and Zoning Committee for the City of Carroll. I am also a loan officer in a local bank. My address is 418 Meadow Lane here in Carroll. I would like to address what nobody has and how awesome of an opportunity this is for the City of Carroll. This is something that they chose to diversify their operation because if you are in the business of ag, it is a very hard. It's a family business. There's a lot of opportunities you have to create for yourself to make things work. This is something that they kind of took on and expanded. This is creating a unique community identity. It's bringing a business that makes diverse products. So it's something unique to Carroll. Carroll is a very large ag community. John Deere having a say in our little town, I think is huge. It also does increase the local tax base, which bolsters the city revenue for our roads and schools and benefits everyone that lives here. And I would hate to see that revenue go to a community, a neighboring community, because we refuse to take that into consideration. Also, we want to keep young people here. Colin is a young entrepreneur that will take over that business eventually from his dad. And if young people and new businesses see those things happening in our community, they're not going to want to come here either. Thank you.
Michelle,
Oh, yes, sorry.
as a, being on the planning and zoning, I guess my question for you is, if we choose to allow this to go through and rezone this property, what happens to your comprehensive plan?
I think that there are several of us that have been on board that it should be redone. That plan was done in 2013, prior to myself being on that committee. And I feel like saying the spot zoning is an issue. There are several areas in this community that there are examples of spot zoning already. If you're going out to Swan Lake on Grant Road, there's McFarland Clinic, that's commercial. Then you have ag land behind it then you have an ag residence, then you have another residence, and then you have an ag residence. There are several things right there. I know I did bring up in the Planning and Zoning Committee about the Ashwood development, how I realize that it's an I-2, but if you look at the zoning on the assessor's report, it has ag land in the middle, then it has ag land on the outside, and then it has commercial, so there are a bunch of different things right there north of Farnerbakken. There are also houses that are right there. If you go out towards the bowling alley, you have an ag residence, then you have two apartment buildings, you have a private residence, and behind it, you have new opportunities along with a church that's right behind it. Go down the road a little bit farther, and then you have Central Church that was ag land that was changed over to commercial. So there have been instances where they have been changed, and I'm saying if other people do want to change that, then present your case in front of the committee as the Warnemans have done. I believe that they have gone above and beyond what they need to do, solidifying everything with their neighbors, bringing in all power sources, water, septic. So that's what I believe.
Michelle, before you go, did you have
I
something?
got one.
Go ahead.
Can I have you look at this real quick? This is 170.15, this comes from you guys, right? Is this yours, or is this the
That's the
city's?
city's code.
So as you read through this, I need to interpret number 5, minimum requirements. If you go to number 3, it says uses in the AP area, including commercial, public facilities, institutional facilities, group living, not including apartments or parks that are not connected and served by Carroll Public Water and Sanitary Sewer Systems shall have no minimum lot size except as otherwise required by underlying zoning districts. So this is the AP that we're talking about. So if you look into commercial sites and the definition of it, I see definition of a commercial site means business, commercial, industrial, institution, or governmental establishment. So why do we have to rezone this? If that's what it falls under, because it's already written in our own laws right here, number 5.
I don't have that code right here, but you said it referenced the underlying zone, is that correct?
Well, and this is what I'm trying to understand in commercial, but in our stuff, it says commercial. and
But
if
it
you
says
look up-
something about the underlying zone, which is the A2. Is that not correct, or?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Right.
I guess I would defer to Dave on that one, but from what I just heard, if it's referencing the underlying zone as a restriction, that's A2, and that would not allow this. But
And the only reason I ask is I only see AP on my chart that I'm looking at,
Right.
the AP.
This is
But-
A2 with an AP overlay.
Okay.
It's protecting the A2 that lies beneath it, correct, Dave?
Correct.
And Michelle, to get back to what you said, if you look at the maps in our comprehensive plan, which you're probably well familiar with, they all conform to our comprehensive plan. But I agree, it's probably time to update, and maybe that's a path forward, to update our comprehensive plan. We've talked about it, and, it's kind of in the mix. It will cost some money, but as it stands now, the zoning is our zoning. The zoning map is zoned the way it is, and that's what we are to judge. That's our standard for judging this request. But that could be a path forward.
And to speak to what you mentioned previously about protecting people that are living around it, he could put up 5 hog barns and be in complete compliance. And I think a lot of people would rather live next to
Well, that's a whole other argument. We're
Right, but I'm
talking
saying,
business.
if we're looking at protecting the neighbors and the people that are
Yeah.
living around it, we have to consider what they can use it for.
I don't want to tick off the hog.
Michelle, one question. I think what Carolyn is saying is correct in that currently we would not be able to completely finalize an ordinance change without amending the comprehensive plan. Being on the P&Z board, and maybe Chris can enter into this discussion too, but what would that involve if the city tonight says, you know what, I think this is a great idea, let's move forward with the idea that we would rezone it. what kind of time would be involved? Because I think it has to go to you first through the P and Z, back to the council. Would it be a complete amendment of the plan, a rewrite of the comprehensive plan, or would it just be something that would allow this zoning, or what's your take on that as a P and Z?
I would have to, I think, maybe check with Ron on that, he's been in planning and zoning a lot longer than I
Okay,
have.
okay.
And I don't know, but I know that there was talk that the planning and zoning comprehensive plan was about up for renewal anyway.
Okay. Chris, along that same line, if the council did decide that they wanted to move forward with this ordinance, you guys wrote this, or with the assistance of P and Z and council, and I don't know who all was involved, but from your standpoint, what would it take to amend the comprehensive plan in order to allow this rezoning?
Jeff again, Chris Whitaker with Region 12 Council of Governments, working on behalf of the city to give advice on planning and zoning issues currently. An amendment to the comprehensive plan can be very simple. It can be looking at one parcel or one issue, if it's not related to land use, or it can be a major overhaul. You know, as Councilperson Seaman discussed, maybe the plan is ready for a redo. That is a major process, as you know. Many people in this room were involved with that process. But that can be a very minor change, but it needs to start with the Planning and Zoning Commission to recommend the plan to the council, and then the council acts upon it.
Okay, and if that amendment was a small amendment in order to allow this, am I hearing you correctly then, that if somebody else came forward within this 2-mile area and requested a rezoning, each and every time that happened, we would have to amend the plan? Is that correct or not?
Jeff, it would be my opinion that every zoning change should be in consultation and compliance with the comprehensive plan. So, and it's not just in the 2-mile area. It's
Right.
every zoning change.
Right. Okay.
So Chris, are you suggesting that there could be a quick fix for this in a timely fashion to move this project ahead, and then we could regroup and reconsider a whole nother 2023 or 24 comprehensive plan?
Mayor Beardmore, the question goes back to, if you look at 414.3, and really all of 414 in the Iowa Code, it lays out the one single priority, both for cities and counties, of a comprehensive plan, is the preservation of ag land usage.
Yep.
And then goes on to 9 other items to consider. And then you talk about being a spot. No matter if that's a 2-acre spot or a 40-acre spot, that still looks like a spot zone. Usually those zoning districts or land use patterns go from industrial to a heavier commercial with some type of buffer, whether it be a highway, a road, a park, and those, you know, it's all about the cohesive land use pattern for a community. It's not just Carroll, it's all of them.
Okay.
And Dave, what did you say, or maybe Jeff, you said in your memo, the code, we have to follow the Code of Iowa. That's why we have a comprehensive plan. And you said something in here about being compatible with surrounding zones. That's in the Iowa Code too, 414. About when we zone, it must be compatible with the area around it. And that's why the courts don't look favorably. That's another thing I'm worried about. The courts don't look favorably upon spot zoning, and that's going all the way up to the Supreme Court in Iowa. I used to be on planning and zoning a while back, and it was fascinating. But when I came on, I was told by several members, this is our Bible. The comprehensive plan is the Bible. You know it well. Chris knows. His advice is very solid.
And I think one of the other issues that was muddled for us at the Planning and Zoning Committee, this is clearly an ag business, and it is partially for their personal use. And they can have an ag business if it is used for their personal use.
Right.
And again, it's just something that they chose to diversify their operation. And hey, this is great. We can make these parts for ourselves and our neighbors, help cut out on shipping, and we all know that's going on right now too. And if we can have something made local and be a part of that, I think that's pretty important.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we kind of touch on what Michelle just talked about, like how we got to the point where it needs to switch from the ag to the industrial? Like, I
Why don't-
asked Colin before when he was up here that he said 60% personal use, 40 for the industrial purpose or the manufacturing purpose.
Why don't we finish the comments for and against, and then we'll get into the discussion with Dave, and he can maybe answer those questions.
We'll get back with you. How
Beautiful.
about that? Yeah. Any other comments that we haven't heard yet that are for? It's a race to see who gets up here first. Hi, Ron.
He's gonna beat me 'cause I'm
He's gonna beat you.
My name's Ron Jurgens, and I live at 2224 220th Street, Carroll, Iowa. With the 20-acre overlay, what we did is we were trying to protect property that was close into the city. That we didn't end up with a piece of ground that was 5-acre lots all the way around the outside, and now how do we get to the middle when the city comes along to develop it? Now we gotta go buy out all those people that put in septic systems and have rural water and et cetera. With the 20-acre overlay, think about it. It's gonna cost you $250,000 to buy 20 acres to put a house on. Now, how many of those are we gonna be getting here in the near future, in the next 50 years even? Because it's gonna go on up with it. So I don't think there's gonna be a lot of housing developed out towards Dick Wernement. I was perusing the county's comprehensive plan today and discovered an interesting area that they had listed into their comprehensive plan. And they've got the old people on there, half of them are dead that were on when they did their 2009 plan. But they had a special area called weaknesses that they had. One of them is lack of industrial diversity. Another one is restrictive and unnecessary rules and regulations. Lack of freedom to pursue different methods or ideas due to codes. Better relationships between urban and ag. And my favorite was lack of common sense. Now, there's a possibility, and I don't know, I haven't looked at it that close as to what's all allowed under the ag. But maybe the fix is, maybe we look at the ag part of it, and maybe there's an addendum to that on what's allowed in an ag zone. That might be a possibility for a quick fix. And yeah, it's been 10 years since we did a comprehensive plan, and we need to do it again. And I don't know about the county, but theirs was 2009. Maybe they don't feel they need to. Maybe they haven't had enough change to warrant it. I don't know what the expense is even for ourselves, but I don't think we need to change a whole lot of it. The 20-acre overlay is only on the north side of town. It's not all the way around town. It's just there. And we were trying to protect what was the Wiedemeyer farm, that we didn't want 5-acre lots all the way around that where there's blacktop and pavement, and then not allow access to the middle when we do get that far to developing for houses. And I think it's gonna be a long time, because we don't seem to be growing all that much in the last 50 years. I don't think we're gonna change much more going to the future for the next 50. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Ron. Frank?
Oh, one more thing, in the packet of information that I got at our last planning and zoning meeting was that plans serve as policy guides and are intended to be flexible and adaptive over time, setting forth the basic framework to guide activities and manage change.
Hi, I'm Alan Brinks. I live on 17715 Noble Avenue. and I just live up the road south of Dick Warman. And here's a guy who's just trying to make a living and better himself, you know? And I'm a neighbor to him to the south, and I have no problem with him building that welding shop and ag building for his machinery. He's got big machinery he works on, and he needs that to work on his machinery for farming. And like I said, I have no problem with, he had come and talked to me, and I have no problem with him building this. My land is right to the south of his adjoining farm, and he owns this farm where he wants to build this building. And he takes very good care of everything he has. And that's all I have to say. And if this is not voted, it's pretty sad for a guy who's just trying to better himself and make a living. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Al. Anybody else in favor? We're going to try and move on unless there's a new point.
I'll be short and sweet.
You're
Hi,
fine.
Terry.
My
You're
name's
fine.
Terry Sharpenkamp, and I live directly to the north of where Dick wants to put the shop. I'm at 17055 Noble Avenue. And when he came to me, said he wanted to put up this building, my first reaction was, well, it's your ground. Can't you do whatever you want? Well, apparently not. So, and I agree. I'd much rather have that. And my husband made a living farming. He's no longer with us. But if he told me that he wanted to put cattle yards right to the south, you know, if we own that ground, I would have said no. But for an ag building, I mean, it's much better to have an ag building, machine shop where he's going to be doing welding and things like that versus, you know, I guess hog confinements or whatnot. And I agree with Ron. Carroll hasn't grown like I looked 30 years ago. We're just maintaining. So I don't think none of us will ever see the day where there's more houses built out there. So thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Thanks, Terry. Anyone else? Before we move to the other side, is there anybody here that wants to speak against the proposition, the proposal to rezone? Going once? I see that there are none. So, Jeff, you want to get to JJ's question now, or do you have something that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think that's fine. JJ, do you want to, I don't recall exactly where you were at there, but you were asking questions of Dave about ag uses or something, I think?
Correct. So currently this is AR, so they can use for ag purposes, trying to switch to industrial. So Colin had said that 60% is for personal ag uses, 40% for the purposes of welding. Why would he have to switch to the industrial? Why wouldn't it just be able to be maintained at that ag?
I think to answer that question, it's all or nothing. If he's using that property for industrial purposes, manufacturing, whatever the percentage is, you have to rezone. Perry, you might be able to add a little bit to that. You're dealing with this on a daily basis.
Well, the only thing I can say is that, by approving it, you'll have several requests in here to do the same thing. And it won't be one or two, there'll be several. I've worked here for 20 years and this has never been done. This rezoning, this type of rezoning, which is spot zoning. It's never been done, so. And there will be several. There's several people that we have said, no, you cannot do this. And this is the reason why you can't do it. A lot of them don't like it, might not agree with it, but that's the guideline that we follow. And that's our zoning code.
Laura, do you have this?
Which one is that?
It's the one with my coloring on it. It's probably the first map in there.
There.
So my question is, if you look at where the ornaments, it's colored in, everybody can see that up there. So my question to Dave, our lawyer, is if we allow this spot zoning, can anywhere in the blue, the light blue, all around the town, the 2 mile? Can anywhere be spot zoning then?
Well, I think the council's setting themselves up for that, if you do approve that. You know, why can't somebody else then come in and say, hey, you've approved this industrial district right there. I want to do something a half mile away, or 3/4 of a mile away. Where do we stand at that point? Where does the council stand?
That's a little bit of my concern is, obviously, we feel Carroll isn't gonna grow that far, that long. But that's, my worry isn't the ornaments, it's right next to some of the green A1s. What if a factory went, you know, let's say where New Hope Village is, you can see that circle there, and what if a factory went right next to a housing development that's to be planned, or is a housing development, and we can't stop it? That's my concern. Because if we allow this, then you're saying we can't stop pretty well anything else.
Those are the unintended consequences built into this.
Yeah, and I think Jeff addressed that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what would be the council's argument, Laverne, to reject
Well, that's
a
fine.
future request?
Hey, I just wanna say something real quick, guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I think this is a little bit different. This is right on the outside of the buffering zone, you know, the 2 mile buffering zone. You know, if this was right next to New Hope Village, or, you know, right by a housing development, I think this is a whole different situation.
Correct.
And realistically, in 100 years, housing isn't gonna be out to this area.
This
I'm not sure if
isn't, to me,
is that
about
right, Bill?
housing. This is about the I-2 and all the uses allowed in this, or,
Carolyn, but what I'm saying is how far this is out. This is right on the edge of the buffering zone. If this was on the other side of the street, this wouldn't be an issue.
I think that the issue could be, Kyle, that the argument would be that this comes all the way down pretty much to the Collison area. And we wouldn't be able to stop somebody from doing something that's in the I-2, right outside Collison or right outside city limits to the north if we allow this to happen. Jeff, did I say that right?
Well, I think that's what Dave's saying, that it would be difficult to deny it, or based on what criteria could we deny it? One question that came up at the P&Z meeting on February 8th, and Sarah Haverl is here, she's the county zoning administrator. And Dick, if you look where the blue coloring is there, kitty corner to the right upwards, Dick owns the property across the road to the north. And the question had come up at that meeting, why don't you just build across the road? And I know at that time, Sarah, you had indicated it was your belief that the county would deny it as well. But in subsequent conversations, you indicated there was a possibility of, a special use permit or something like that?
I'll just come up here, I've got it.
Okay.
What's going on, so I apologize.
Okay.
Sarah Habrel, 828 North Clark, Carroll Zoning. So there is a special use permit that could be applied for through the Board of Adjustment for the ag-related business. And then it would go before our board to say whether they'd approve that special use permit or not for that property to the north.
But it wouldn't be a slam dunk necessarily, it's just something that's a possibility?
It would have to go through the Board of Adjustment, yes.
Okay.
And that's outside, that's not what we're talking about here. This is
It's-
a different area.
It'd be
That
just
would
in
just
that
be-
corner right above the blue on the upper right.
so it's contiguous to our overlay, correct?
Yes, it's just right across the road to the north,
Okay,
yep.
so
It would just be
not
in the
that
county,
far.
outside of the
Okay.
2 mile, yes.
And Dick, I think you addressed that when that discussion came up, and if I remember correctly, you said that you would have to bring in I don't know how much filled.
The road and the field, the road is 12 feet higher than the field.
Okay,
I would have to bring in, it would cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars
Okay.
to build it up.
okay.
And if you're talking about saving farm ground, if I had to build there, which I won't, I'm not, because I'm not gonna spend the money. I would take the dirt off of the farm where I wanna build.
Mm-hmm.
So I would destroy how many acres on that farm and fill in another farm.
Okay, I just mainly wanted to address it because it had come up at that meeting, so, okay, thanks. What's that?
Anything else for me?
Does anybody have any other questions of
Oh,
Sarah?
thanks, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Jeff? Jeff, anything more to add? Dave,
Just
anything to add?
basically what I had in the memo, I think from an emotional standpoint, I've known Dick and Marcy for, I hate to even say it, 40 years probably now. I think we would all like to allow this. There are some procedural problems from a city standpoint, I think that that are the biggest roadblocks right now. And I've identified a number of those that in this, we talked about the spot zoning, and I guess moving forward too, I think if the council is desirous of rezoning this, I think Michelle, I don't know where Michelle went, but, oh, there she is. That's probably what needs to take place is basically a total revamp of the existing comprehensive plan, because I don't think we would have a defensible position to turn down any other requests for different zoning in that 2-mile area absent specific criteria. And then like say, I think we put future councils in a bad spot because instead of having consistency and predictability and fairness, we're basically taking it on a case-by-case basis. And I'm not sure what criteria the councils could use to deny. So I guess depending on which way the council decides they would like to go here, then we would have to do procedurally what happens moving forward. Yeah.
I just want to speak to that, because when you submit a building permit to the city, they are considering it on a case-by-case basis.
But it's considered also based on the existing zoning. And one of the things I mentioned in my memo, we've turned down several requests in the last year or two because the intended use was not in conformance or was not consistent with the comprehensive plan. And that's kind of what we're talking about now, that if the council and the P&Z wanted to make this kind of change, it would have to be kind of a wholesale change. We couldn't do it on a piecemeal basis, I guess.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I think if anybody wants to bring their case to the city council and the P&Z committee, we are more than willing to listen to that on a case-by-case basis. And, speaking to the county as far as spot zoning, there are areas that have been spot zoned in the county because they just decided, I'm not gonna get a building permit. Stitz Repair is on 71. They did not get a building permit that was built on ag land. And I know that was not brought up, so I wanna just present that for consideration, that it's not that everything is being done the way it should be now.
And I think the building you're talking about was outside of our jurisdiction. We
Like
didn't
Carroll
have.
County.
Right, yeah,
The county
yeah. Okay.
person.
The whole point of planning is to have consistency. And so we develop, and we aren't arbitrary, which I think we would be perceived on a case-to-case basis as being arbitrary. So I
I
think
think
that's
consistency
something.
is key, but as a community, if we wanna grow, we have to take advantage of these
Well,
opportunities when they're
If
given
we
to us.
do it on case by case, there's no need for zoning ordinance.
So what do we need to do to make it work?
How do we
Yeah.
make this work and make sure
Instead
it's
of
accessible
just
and
keep
Carroll's
hashing this?
successful?
What needs to happen?
Dave, you had a memo. Do you want to go through some of your talking points, and then we can maybe have the council discuss?
No, that discussion may have to come later, because what is in front of the council tonight is whether or not the council will approve the rezoning request in front of you. How the council and Wernemont's move after tonight, that's up for a different night, different discussion. The council's only question is tonight whether or not to approve the rezoning. Not how we can work out things and other discussions. I will just go back, and I'm not gonna rehash my memo. Everybody's read that. I would go back to Carolyn's statement. I have not heard anyone say that they have any sort of personal disagreement or bad feelings towards the Warnemons. That's not where anybody, nor myself, are coming from. Nor have I heard anybody mention that. All I hear is good things. But Carolyn made the point, and I completely agree with her. This is a legal question that the council needs to address. Carolyn's already mentioned this. Section 414.3 says, the zoning regulations shall be made in accordance with the comprehensive plan. That is the Iowa code. I would not recommend this council to violate Iowa code. And again, it says, the regulations shall be made in accordance with the comprehensive plan. I think the only other thing I would mention, but besides this, is that the appellate courts in Iowa have mentioned that no property owner has a right to have their property rezoned. So there's no right to have rezoning done, even when you request it. I think I will end with this, and this comes from the Iowa, excuse me, Iowa Land Use Planning Notebook from Iowa State University. The city's comprehensive plan serves the function of providing continuity and predictability. Without common guiding principles, decisions about community direction, land development, and public spending would be based would be based to a much greater degree on personal opinions and political maneuvering. The comprehensive plan provides continuity across time and gives successive councils a common framework for addressing issues of growth and change. This continuity increases the consistency and fairness of the development process and prevents haphazard zoning. And again, that comes from the Iowa State University and their planning notebook.
Very well. Pretty well. Wrapped it up for now.
So Dave, we
Martha,
need to,
before you close your hearing, why did DMAC build a new facility that they just built? And a big portion of that is a welding lab there to teach young people how to weld and do things to fill positions like a Dick Ornament? Or are we strictly doing this for Scranton manufacturing over in Greene County? And don't get me wrong, Mr. Puck, I really appreciate you being here.
We love those welders.
Puck's down in Audubon County. So is that what we're just educating people to be able to go to Greene County and Audubon County to work?
You're
I mean, I don't
asking,
think
you're
that's the
asking me.
question. I mean, this is a
Okay.
zoning
Rhetorical.
question, is it
I know
not?
it's
Not
zoning
a,
question, but
why are we teaching them? If we need to rewrite the comprehensive plan, then that's what needs to happen, not,
we're not allowing business to grow in the position.
I want them to completely do this, but we still have to follow the law that we have the comprehensive plan based off of.
I go back to the information that was given to me at the last planning and zoning meeting. It is a guide. It's not cut in stone.
What did you? No, it is
It's cut in stone.
Ron, it is a policy statement. This is a comment by Gary Taylor, who is a lawyer and a professor in planning at Iowa State University. The plan is a policy statement, and we enact the policy by creating a zoning ordinance. And the DMAC thing, that is zoned in an institutional zone. So they are able to teach. It isn't a commercial endeavor nor industrial. And I respect what you're saying. You've served so well and done a great job on P&Z, but we have to deal with the reality, the cards we're dealt with right now with our plan.
Yeah, very well. I think we're pretty well close to the point at potentially entering debate. And so we've heard from all sides that are in favor. Unless there's anything else that anybody cares to add, then we'll go ahead and, if council's in agreement, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Is that everybody in agreement to do that? Anything else? Okay. Okay, Laura, I have 6:25, and we will close the public hearing on the rezoning request for the Werneman family. So moving forward, we do have an ordinance that is ready for the council to adopt, should they so choose. What is the council's wishes?
I will make the motion that, let me find it here, based on the staff recommendation, for reasons outlined in this memo and those in the memo provided by City Attorney Dave Bruner, staff recommends that the City Council deny the request to rezone the properties described from A2 Agricultural District with AP overlay to I2 based on the comprehensive plan and our zoning ordinance, which we are legally bound to.
So once again, I'm going to paraphrase
Yeah,
your
you can
motion.
shorten
Your
it.
motion is to reject the proposal to rezone.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Mhm.
Is there a second to that effect? Okay. Is there a second to that?
With the current comprehensive plan that we have, I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Can I
Any
ask a
further
question?
discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
So here we are in this debacle of something that's illegal, but we have to vote on it. I'm still confused over this whole thing. So I really need some clarity on it.
We're voting
Why
to
we're even-
denying the request.
But
to deny the
according to
request.
Carolyn, it's a request that can't be even brought up here anyway. So
That's
I'm,
not,
it's, you said it was a policy that
It
goes
is.
against the comprehensive plan.
we're,
So why is it even here?
oh, Dave, you explain.
Yeah.
You're
And I
the
get that
lawyer.
part of it,
Protocol
but
is to take action, and the action is to deny the request. Did I?
because you
You're the-
can't
you're the
approve
attorney.
the request, right?
Tom, the application has been made to rezone this piece of property
We can't do
to
that.
I-2. The standard of review for the council is whether or not it is consistent with the city's own comprehensive plan. That's your decision to make. Whether or not the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Does that clear it up, Tom? I mean, does it? It might not, be what you want to hear, but at least it clears it up. Okay, so we still have a motion and a second to deny the request. Is there any further discussion? Kyle, can you hear us okay?
Yep,
Okay. So you've heard the motion?
yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Base,
No.
Bauer,
No.
Shrek,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
or now.
No.
Motion fails, 3-3.
Okay. So the motion to deny the request has failed. What is the council's wishes to move forward on this now?
So if we update this comprehensive plan, because there's a lot of things that's changed in these last 10 years. And there was something that's brought up about 20 acres preserving farm ground, I think that's something that should be looked at too. Maybe some of that is okay, but not all of it.
To Kyle's point, how long does it take to redo a comprehensive plan?
Chris, any thoughts on that? How long might it take?
To do a complete overhaul,
Are you talking 6 months?
probably 12 to 18.
Yeah. That was part of my question earlier. That was my part.
That is, and again.
I knew that.
You look
Sorry,
at,
I didn't hear what Chris just got them saying.
12 to 18 months.
to do a complete and thorough job, 12 to 18 months, and we've done that process for 30-plus years at the COG. And we do 2 or 3 of them a year. The other thing that you need to consider, this is not just a land use document. You are looking at population, housing, public safety, infrastructure. The list goes on. It's not simple and easy. Everybody can say, yeah, it's just slow government guy taking 12 to 18 months. Well, when you sit down and sit in those meetings, you'll see that there's a reason to get to the end, to the completion of that policy document, and then move to the zoning ordinances.
I was a part of it in 2009, and it went like molasses. So, I mean, it is an exhaustive process.
There's a number, I mean, you've got the plan, it's not 5 pages, it's about 150. And you've got census information that some of that we're still waiting on from 2020 because we don't have it. Carroll County's under contract right now to update their comprehensive plan. We're waiting on census to start. There's no reason to use 12-year-old data when we're gonna have 2-year-old data. So it's just not a quick and easy fix. Again, that's the process.
Chris, dumb question, but are there any economies of scale if we were to update our plan at the same time the county was, or is it two different animals?
It's 2 different animals.
Okay.
That lends itself to my earlier question, Chris, because I kind of knew my own answer there, but I wanted you to repeat it for everybody.
So I guess I have a question, Perry. I don't know if you're the right person to answer this. As it sits at the AR, and they use it for personal use only, they could still put this building up?
As it's zoned right now?
Mm-hmm.
And if it was strictly just an ag building for their agricultural use?
Yes.
Yeah, they can put it up.
How does that make sense? I'm so confused. I don't know how, I'm sorry. I'm Mary Beck. I don't know how that makes any sense at all to any of you people. Think about that. It's a travesty that this town is not growing. It's a travesty that you're not giving a young man the opportunity to do what he loves.
Mern, we had that open forum a moment ago, so.
Sorry.
Dick, did you want to say something? No, okay.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Are there any other?
I would add one thing too, and that's, we're not here telling them that they can't do what they want to do. They can do this business. What we're telling them is they can't do it where they want to. There's nothing that's preventing them from going to a zone properly district, buying a property and putting up this building. That's been done before. It's been done recently. So we're not here telling them they can't do what they want to do.
So as a 28-year-old, I'm supposed to have the equity to buy ground, put up a building, and finance the equipment to do so, when my dad will give it to me?
I can't answer that.
We own 320 acres there. It's all in it except for 80, which is not a piece of ground you would build on. You wouldn't build a house on it. It doesn't even make sense to build on it.
It's a floodplain.
It's a floodplain.
You're talking about
Tax you, but they
the
won't
one to the
represent
north?
you, right?
Yes.
I have a question. Who did you guys turn away when you said before that people have tried to spot zone before and you guys said no? Can I ask what?
They didn't try to spot zone. As I understand it, they requested to put a business in a zone that was not zoned.
Okay, can I
Correct.
ask like who?
You can ask, but I don't think that's public record at this point.
Okay.
I'm not sure what we are doing wrong. What are we doing that is not ag? We are building parts for a planter so somebody can plant corn to feed the cattle in the confinement barns. They talk about hog factory. What is manufacturing? They talk about factory farms. They are manufacturing meat. We are manufacturing components to farm with. What is not ag? Tell me what we are doing that is not ag.
I don't think anybody's saying it's not ag. What they're saying is it's a commercial use of ag property. And I don't disagree with you, Dick, but the problem, as Carolyn has said, as much as we would like to do this in its current state with the comprehensive plan being what it is, we can't rezone until the comprehensive plan is changed. Now, are there other ways to go around this? I have no idea. But that's my understanding of it, if I'm correct.
I'm going to throw this out there. Is there any other motions on this issue that the council wants to consider? Is there another motion?
Can you bring in a motion that when it's not published in the agenda?
Yeah.
Separate
It's-
motion?
Yeah, because, the staff recommendation.
Anything to do with this, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just asking if there's another motion. There may or may not be.
Kyle, you still with us?
Yep.
Okay.
Going once?
I mean,
Kyle?
I would make a motion that we upgrade our comprehensive plan to be able to do certain things. Not everything, I mean, I understand this law is, cut and dry in stone, but not everything's gonna apply to that. And realistically, if we wanna grow and build a tax base, we're gonna have to do things. These family farms can be sold and money can be run into the cities and we never see these people again. My problem is, if I own this land, I'm doing this correctly, and being told no, I could see a frustration point on that. They could have thrown this building up. We never know what happens in there.
So once again, I'm going to paraphrase for you again. Are you making a motion for the city to rewrite or to write a new comprehensive plan? Is that what your motion should state?
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah, it's not that. See, that's not on the agenda. So that's where it gets.
We can bring it back. at
Yeah,
the next
the only
meeting.
thing we're talking about here is whether or not we approve or deny the zoning request. I believe that's correct.
I guess my question would be to Chris, can you amend that? Just like anything else, can you amend a comprehensive program without rewriting the whole thing?
You can,
Okay? Is this an 18-month process like the
but
rewriting
Tom,
it?
again, this will all go back, and even if you do a complete overhaul, you've got to go back to the spot zoning issue. Because you've created a spot, which is an island in a different land use area.
Right. And I'm still looking at our map up here with spots on it. I'm trying to understand myself of how they got zoned the way they are. Prior to me being on this council. So how did all the pink areas get zoned different than that?
Why can't you
Was it-
just amend what's allowed in
A lot of
that?
that was probably done when they actually brought in the zoning, because there was areas that are already had, whether it was residential, housing in it, that's your R7. Those areas were already there when they brought in the zoning, so they had to do something with it. and
Well, that's what I'm asking. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's wrong or right. I'm just wondering why it's
Some
like
of
it
those-
is.
Some of those uses could have been before the zoning ordinance was even adopted by the city, back in 83 or 5, whatever. And again, typically, when you look at the R7s, Tom, I would argue that those are large rural estates, not much different than a farmstead.
I'm to the point where I feel like I'm perhaps maybe losing the order of the meeting here. And so I'd like to keep it on track, and I'm sensing a level of disturbance, was probably an understatement. I just want you to all please understand, all of us up here, we put on our boots just like you guys do, every morning. Go to church, hug our kids, kiss our wives. We're doing the best that we can. What we have here is a real pickle. We're up against a law that is flying in the face of some good intentions. And we're all doing the best that we can. And I'm just going to just ask for your consideration of that. And that's all I'm going to say. Now, I'm going to go back to my original question. If there is another motion regarding the acceptance or denial of the planning and zoning ordinance change, or the rezoning for the ordinance, I would entertain that at this point. If not, the matter's closed for now. Is there a motion to, any other motion?
unless somebody has changed their position, I think what I'm sensing, and this is usually your role, the direction you want to go in, but I don't know, it seems like a lot of us want to consider updating our comprehensive plan. What do we envision? And somebody mentioned, well, ag is changing, et cetera. Maybe, I don't think the answer is in the industrial. That is just opening up all sorts of things, and I think it's like your plan on steroids when it opens up, and that's not your intent. I get that. But maybe we need to relook at our ag, what we allow in ag, and I don't know if there are choices that we're legally allowed to implement. Chris, I just don't know enough about what's going on now. Or if there's, no, we're,
What you have now, Carol, what you have now is what you have.
yeah, but I mean, if we updated our comprehensive plan, are there other types of ag zones that could be considered?
Or different
The-
types of
the
uses.
the
in
uses.
Different ag districts, that is always, that's something.
I don't
to
know,
consider.
that
Yeah.
we've never talked about.
Because some, I'll spare you the time of, zoning but you can always review, I think, the principal permitted uses and or the conditional uses in different types of districts.
So can we bring this back at the next meeting with some more information so that we can actually have a motion that we can move forward on? Something that we.
I think it's
can
certainly
we-
possible, but I don't
from
think that's gonna
somebody?
help Dick and Colin and Marcy
not
at
gonna
this
help
point.
them
in time.
today.
In the next meeting, it still would help. I mean,
It's not gonna
2
help
weeks
them
away.
today.
Well, but the problem is it's gonna take 12 to 18 months to do it. And
Is it though?
To
I
amend
don't know, I'm
something
just-
or just get it
A whole
changed?
comprehensive plan, yes, but is it really to talk about?
I know,
Sorry, Tom, there's
I'm just
four questions
asking,
there.
somebody's
I
gotta
don't-
ask her, you'll
Get
never
one
know
at
an
a time.
answer, I think the lost translation that we have is in what Dick said, where he's making agricultural parts, but it gets lost in translation of, is it an industry or is it agriculture? Where does it land and how is its purpose going?
A comprehensive plan update is a long-term project. Looking at potential changes in uses can be a shorter-term fix, but they need to be well thought out and not just, and again, this is not personal against Dick and Marcy. I like these people, and it sucks sitting up here doing this, it does. But you've gotta look at every possible thing that comes ahead to make a policy and a regulation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense, but we just wanna know how to get there via Chris
Or whoever.
or whoever.
Those are things that we could look at as far as conditional uses in different districts or permitted uses. So,
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Can't.
No,
We don't
wanna
have
make a
to.
motion.
We'll just, you can't make a motion, it's
Yeah,
not,
I mean-
but we can just do it.
Yeah, we could just do it, we could.
If there's a consensus, we
Put it
could
on
put something
a,
together.
on the
Bring it
consent
back.
agenda.
Bring it back, put it on the agenda.
Yeah, to do, we could do that. Yeah, we
Okay.
can make it work.
Yep. Very good. So that pretty much wraps up the discussion tonight. Thank you for everybody for your time and your input. Greatly appreciate it, and we look forward to finding a meaningful resolution to this. Item number 6 on tonight's agenda under resolutions is the 8th amended and restated Central Business District Urban Renewal Plan and 23 amendment to the City of Carroll Urban Revitalization Plan.
Okay, essentially, what we've, well, can we wait? Yeah, let's just take a second, yeah.
Okay, once again, item number 6 under resolutions is the 8th amended and restated Central Business District Urban Renewal Plan and 2023 amendment to the City of Carroll Urban Revitalization Plan. This is pertaining to the Court Street LLC tax abatement request. And Laura.
Why don't I start, and I'll pass the
Memo said
baton
Laura.
if need be.
I scratched that out.
At our last meeting, we talked about a tax abatement for the apartments located at 5th and Court Street. But in order to do that, we needed to set up a new urban revitalization area. And in our discussions and subsequent emails to the council, we explained the advice that we received from our attorney at Allers and Cooney, Nathan Overberg, about having this smaller urban revitalization area. And if you'll recall, our current urban revitalization is essentially the entire city. But what we're proposing in order to allow this different abatement schedule is that this new smaller urban revitalization area basically overlap our current central business district urban renewal area, which essentially runs from about Bella Vista out by the fire station to approximately Highway 71 or McDonald's. Another request that came out of that meeting was that we extend our existing urban renewal area 1 block north. Currently it ends at 7th Street, or everything on the south side of 7th Street. We're proposing, based on that request, that we go 1 block north to 8th Street, and then we would go from Court Street to Simon, where this new urban renewal area would butt up against the existing urban renewal area. And my new favorite word, the attorney suggested that in our language we write that the boundaries of both the urban revitalization and urban renewal be coterminous, which in essence means that anytime the boundaries of one of those areas would change, so would the other. So if the urban renewal area were to change, the urban revitalization area would change with it. And the reason we decided to propose that we go to Court Street instead of Main, the Mansion House, which is at the corner of 8th and Main Street, would fall within this area. And although I don't think there are any plans whatsoever of making it a multifamily residential, it was one obvious building within this district that would have that potential going down the road. So we thought we would incorporate it in there now. All we're asking for tonight is approval of this letter of engagement with Allers and Cooney. And if you read the letter, basically they will prepare all of the legal documentation and all of the steps moving forward to establish this urban revitalization and this urban renewal area and this new different tax abatement area. Laura, did I miss anything?
Oh, I think you got it.
I just was hoping I could use the word coterminous
You even
before the night was over.
you even said the word right. I was looking for a map on this just so I could delineate it, but do you have anything?
I don't have anything on here, I
Sorry.
apologize.
But it's essentially Simon to Court,
Yeah.
8th to about 3rd, with a little bit of an area carved out to the southwest.
I can send it.
Well, the new area that we're adding, it would just be the, from Simon to Court from 7th to 8th. Just like
7th to
That's the
8th.
new
Yeah,
area.
that's just the new
Okay.
area. Otherwise, it's the same area that is currently in our downtown urban renewal plan right now.
To include that as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of our hopes, if you'll recall, this building, this apartment building on 7th Street that the city had the court case on recently, because of the way that the current urban renewal area is listed, that apartment's on the wrong side of the street
Yep.
to fall within. So that's one of the other motivators for going 1 block north
Yep.
to 8th.
Well, let's do something easy. Is there a resolution to approve the agreement with Allers and Cooney? I said easy. Yeah. that's-
You
Go
thought
ahead.
it was easy.
JJ, is there a second? Second? And Carolyn? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ordinaro.
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Schreck.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Perfect, thank you. Item number 7 under reports, hopefully something a little bit easier this time too, is Central Business District business signs. And Randy, I turn it back over to you. You've done a little bit more legwork on this, as has the chamber, so go ahead.
I believe so, the chamber has. Following your discussion last meeting, there has been a little bit of public input received at City Hall. I believe the chamber has performed a survey of members and non-members in the Central Business District, and they're here, Matt's here now to can present the results of their survey.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Good evening, everyone. Fascinating conversation tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for sitting through.
Yeah, of course. I'm just gonna, we have a bunch of copies here. I'll let you all just pass it around. It was my job to come here and present this to you. And on here, you'll have some of the initial information at top on the packet. As you'll see, there was 38 chamber member businesses in the Central Business District that the survey went to. And there's 27 additional businesses outside chamber membership there that I believe Carolyn and others were potentially going to talk to as well. On that first page, you'll see what was sent out, a little kind of summary of it, what was being considered, the background, and some of the rationale that I believe Councilperson Seaman put together. Going on to the second page is the results that we have. At the very bottom, you will see that the question that was asked, it was a one-question survey. Do you want to keep the yellow business signs in the Central Business District? 14 no's. They do not want to keep the yellow signs. 5 yeses and 8 indifferents. Total, the emails at the bottom, some of those were of the businesses that were part of the survey that was sent out, and some were outside businesses. The page after that is the 38 businesses that were emailed the survey. So that's, and then you can kind of go back and see who responded and how they responded. So breaking that down, of the 38 emails, surveys sent out, 22 of them, of the responses were specifically from that survey. That's a 58% response rate. And then we had 5 additional emails or commentary on it. And of those, they were all no to take them down. They do not want to keep them. So that's kind of what we had for information and what was collected in the short time frame that we had to do such. Let me know, I guess, if there's any questions, comments, concerns.
Matt, did anybody like comment on, is it just like the visual yellow, or is it like if the signs were different?
There was, so the survey itself, no, how this, we have the easiest way for us to do it is just do it through our platform, if you will, on Chamber Nation, which kind of runs the chamber website, et cetera, which is, again, different as a reminder from Carroll County Growth Partnership. But it was just a basically yes or no indifferent question. Some individuals did email and give some commentary that it was the fading, the C's, just the inconsistent yellows, essentially, if you will. You know, it was kind of the basic commentary that we have heard so far on the issue. So,
I would add too, a week ago Friday in the weekly report that I send out on email, I had basically what the newspaper had in on Friday, I think it was, asking people that had an opinion for or against this to contact us. I received a total of 5. 1 was to leave the signs, 4 were to take them out. And I think there's a little bit of overlap on some of the names I just saw here, but it was, like say, 4 to 1 in favor of taking them out.
yep, yeah, I mean, there was some pretty good discussion around it. Some of them, you know, emailed and called and expanded with their opinions to Kimberly or maybe others. So that's kind of what we had.
Did any of the council members receive any input independent of what we're talking about?
Yeah, we all received an email from Peg Buman.
Yeah, she's one of the ones I've got. Yeah.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
I think there was about 5 of them, I think, that were addressed to
Yeah.
all of us. And I had a couple of side comments just in passing and generally in favor of their removal. I think all but 1 was a little
Yeah.
more indifferent. One thing I'd like to add is I commend Vicki and Carolyn for taking the initiative on this, and then I further commend the council for delaying the decision another week so we could enlist a little bit of feedback from our constituents.
Matt, the
So,
reason we only had this short time frame is if we didn't do it tonight, we have to wait 6 months.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, no, then that's totally fine. I'm just saying our response rate probably also could have been greater with longer time, but I get you have time constraints and,
Yeah.
but that also can affect your response rate in return, so.
Well, and people were notified via the radio, the newspaper, et cetera.
it was out
so,
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
Yep, yeah, Kimberly made sure she
you
got on the
gave them
radio and
You gave
talked
them a
about
good
it.
shot, yeah.
So.
yeah.
Thanks for your help on all this.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Thank
No
you.
problem, thank you.
Anything to add, Vicki or Carolyn? Just anything different from 2 weeks ago?
No, I,
At our January 18th Historic Preservation Commission meeting, we did have a motion to remove the signs, and all 7 commissioners, Carolyn's one, I'm one, and Karen Friedland, who's, you've got the, she's one that there, but 4 others also agreed that they should come down.
and they didn't contact people, they thought that counted, but I don't think it does. I don't know. But they walked around and looked,
Okay.
yeah.
So once again, we're back to the original recommendation of the council to consider their removal. What is the council's wishes?
Mayor, I think we have to go back and have a motion to reconsider
Okay?
last meeting's motion. You
Okay.
follow me?
Yep.
So, as I understand it, the motion was to remove, but that motion was defeated. 3-2.
Yep.
My notes suggest.
Yes.
So a motion to reconsider must come from the no votes, either Kyle, Laverne, or Tom.
Correct.
Need to make the motion to reconsider. It can be seconded by any of the council members. And then we take a vote on the reconsider motion, and then depending on that result, we either move on or make another motion.
Okay, thank you. So then is there a motion from one of the dissenters from 2 weeks ago?
I'll make that motion.
Okay? Laverne, is there a second to that effect by anyone?
I'll second that.
By Misty? Any further discussion? And again, the motion is to remove the signs. Yep.
Motion is to reconsider.
To reconsider, sorry, then we'll get to
Yeah.
that. Sorry, my bad. Okay, so any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shrek? Yes. Seaman?
Yes,
Bauer?
Yes.
Bordenaro? No. Face?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion is approved, 5-1.
Okay, so now we would seek reconsideration or a motion to remove the signs.
Yes.
Okay, perfectly. Is there a motion, and that can be made by anybody now?
Yes.
Okay. Motion to that effect.
I will make the motion.
Okay, Misty makes a motion to remove the signs. Is there a second?
second?
Okay, by Carolyn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call again, please.
Seaman?
Yes,
Dirks?
Yes.
Face?
Yes.
Bauer?
No.
Bordenaro?
No.
Shrek? Yes. Motion's approved, 4-2.
Okay. Very well, so that one's done. Okay, we go down to another real easy one, and then we're gonna go to police vehicle purchase. And Brad?
Thank you, Mayor. You all got an email from Jeff Kaler a few weeks ago indicating that the police department had our vehicle order, which we had put in back in September with Ford, canceled. Since that time, I've been able to find a vehicle that matches well, it didn't initially match our specs, but Stivers Ford out of Milwaukee has 6 vehicles coming in, and they're able to make changes to their orders, which theirs did not get canceled, to match the specs that we requested with Champion Ford back in the fall. The price for the vehicle from Stivers Ford is $48,025. Their trade was quite a bit lower at $8,400. We have reached out to a company called Gov Deals. It's an online auction house that we currently use within the city to sell items. And they did some research for us. And I had put in here before I got the research back that they were selling between $6,000 and $10,000. The more realistic prices are selling at $12,000 and above instead of trade-in value on the online auction site. 2 local vehicles, both in Nevada, Iowa, sold in August. One was for $12,000, one was for $12,500. Both 2018s also. Iowa City sold a 2016 in January for 15,000 with similar miles to what we have on ours. So we have the ability to get our trade value back that we would have had with Champion Ford and possibly even get more. We may look into this for the future also. What I'm asking tonight is we don't have any other bids because they're just not available from any other dealers at this point. So would ask for the waiver of city policy 501, which is the purchasing policy. Approve the purchase of the 2023 Ford Police Interceptor from Stivers Ford Lincoln in Waukee at a price of $48,025. And then give us the option, I talked to Laverne last week about potentially keeping this vehicle back for another department to use within the city. So it could be that option or the option to sell the vehicle on GovDeals online auction. And the vehicle, Stivers is saying will be here within 90 days. And so we would have time to decide if we wanted to keep the vehicle around for another department or if we wish to sell it on GovDeals at that point.
Chief, question, during the budget discussions, we had agreed to suspend the car allowance and you would take one of the trades. Would this be the trade or would you wait until the next one or what's your plan there?
That would be the next car. I would say this is not the most preferable car to probably keep around the city.
Okay.
We did this a couple years ago with the building department. That car was in much better shape, or maybe lower mileage, I should say. This make has a known issue with water pump failure, and the water pump is on the back of the motor. It costs about $2,500 to replace and about 2 days of time for labor, which is why the cost is so high. We have replaced them on one of the other cars that we've now traded. That was the 2018. This one has not had that issue come up. The one at the building department did. Dan just fixed it a week or two ago. He was real happy about that bill. So this one may be one of those, we haven't fixed it, so it could happen. It could not happen. I just don't know. If I was to keep it for the police department, I would say no, let's sell it. But if it's something where it's getting very little mileage on it.
Are the new Explorers, do they have the water pump in the same location?
They fixed that and put it back where they should be.
Very good, okay. Planning ahead.
Do we know why why was there from 48,000 to 33?
So
Is
there's
it the trade?
There's a trade value included with that also.
Gotcha.
Yep. The cost was a little bit higher. I believe it was like $2,000 higher than what we got from Champion Ford, and we'll be able to eat that within our budget. We'll make that adjustment, so we won't need to make any budget amendments for that.
Brad, when you spoke to the dealers, did they talk about the order window opening back up or what the likelihood would be if you did try to order again?
There's a lot of unknowns.
Okay.
It was suggested that we give our specifications to the dealers so that the minute those windows open, they can submit their orders. And their belief is that the orders in first are the ones that are getting accepted and kept. We put ours in about 3 to 4 weeks after that window opened, which is maybe why we got canceled.
But that would not be on a bid basis. It would just be we order it and we pay what they charge us.
I've talked to New Way and Champion, who both have done our bids for us. Champion didn't give me an answer, but New Way said, we'll take your order anyway because we can sell it. Okay. So we just may not have to, we could possibly put our order in and then take bids, and the orders would already be entered, and they could either cancel the order or, like in New Way's case, they would keep the vehicles coming because they're probably going to get more canceled next year, and they would have the market
And
to sell.
Stivers was confident that this vehicle will be built and we will take delivery.
They've got 6 already in the queue to be built right now.
Okay.
So the question was asked, why did you retire, Beardmore?
Well,
I can't deal with this stuff anymore.
And Ford and Chevy and Dodge are all seeing the same issues. Chevrolet has probably they had the best plan probably going forward. They're creating inventory sheets for departments, and they're just ordering when they come up based off their inventory request.
Yeah.
So the sheriff has just entered one with Carroll Chevrolet to do that option. So
Is that for a pickup then?
It's for any Chevrolet vehicle.
They don't make a police car anymore, do they?
Just the Tahoe.
Okay.
So I think Ford will probably have to follow suit if they want to keep up with the market. They're going to have to make changes too.
And if you don't mind, I made a call Thursday night out to Champion, talked to Drew. He said, sorry, apologies, but this is the way of the world. Talked to Kyle on Saturday or Monday or whatever it was, Saturday. This is the way of the world, but they're just, I hate it. I just absolutely hate it.
It's bad, and that's any vehicle too. If you're going to buy one on yourself, you see the lots, they're just not as full as they had been in the past.
So I understand the purchase price is about $2,000 higher through Stivers, but if we accept their trade, then it's like $5,900 higher.
Correct. And my belief is that we'll be able to get quite a bit more based off of the information I got back from Gov Deals on our resale value that we'll see. And this may be something we look at going forward with anyway for future purchases instead of trading off. If this is a successful opportunity, we might be better off selling on Gov Deals.
Brad, is
Not
it
just for
correct
police
too
vehicles, but-
that this car that would come from Stivers is part of a state bid?
It is. Stivers has the state bid for
Does
this.
that exempt us from having to waive our purchasing policy, Dave, since it's a state bid process?
I think we've typically in the past still continued to waive the policy, just to cover ourselves.
Sure.
Yeah. Is that right, Brad?
That's how because we have purchased some stuff on state bids in the past, and it's typically, there's no other bidders, but we have waived state bid,
Yeah.
I think, just like Dave said, just to make sure we're okay.
Yeah, I kind of wish the chamber was still in here for now. I want to just grant me the nuance of saying that going out of town does cost more money. I want to make that typically clear.
And we
very
always
clear.
compare our state bids with our local ones when we get them, and they're very competitive.
Our local dealers are the most competitive.
Yeah, they do
Trust
a
me on
great
that.
job.
And we'll go back to them again next year. This is just a abnormal occurrence that we're seeing, and so our plan is to go back to New Way and Champion. And I believe we're gonna, next few weeks, try to create a plan with both of them to get orders started and then kind of bid backwards, I guess we'll say. I don't know how you wanna say it, but that's what we'll try to get doing. That way we get in a bad rotation when we don't have a large fleet anyway with trading cars. If we get a year behind, it can really put a wrench in us. We had that happen. We had a car get T-boned a few years back, and then COVID hit, and they canceled our order then, and it took 18 months, and we're still getting corrected from that.
One last thing, Brad, is sorry, Kyle, but I called Ford Fleet, and they took down my information, crickets, since then. So I just wanted to express to them the problem this creates, for good customers like the city.
Yeah.
And if you recall, we lost a truck at the golf course
Yep.
in January too, that we ordered a year ago, February 11th.
Yeah.
And that one was canceled as well.
We
so.
still have a medium truck that's about a year out too.
The sheriff
so-
they ordered 3, and they had one of their 3 canceled, so they got better luck than we did, but they're still seeing cancellations too.
Kyle, you got something to add?
Yeah, real quick. So Brad and I had a conversation probably a week or two ago on this. One of the things that him and I talked about is looking at, instead of, getting a bid, wait for it to come to council, is, when we get order banks opened up, we have, as a dealer, hey, we have 24 hours to get this bid in, or 48 hours, get it to Brad, and then he can make a decision yes or no, because, if this is out 2 or 3 weeks, it may get into a situation like this too, where the order's not gonna be picked up.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so we just have to figure out how the process should work moving forward with that.
Yeah. Yeah, being a little bit more proactive towards
Yeah.
it, and knowing what we're dealing with today.
So Dave, do we need 2 separate motions, one to waive the policy and one to purchase, or is it one big motion? Or?
Typically, we've done it all in one motion.
Okay.
Yeah. I just think when we get a better used one, we should think about keeping it around for in-house instead of, shipping it out.
Yeah. And this didn't have that mechanical issue that's potentially on the horizon. Is maybe a better view. And it'll have 98,000+ miles on it when we go in 90 days to trade it. So it's getting up there with the wear and tear that we put on them.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks,
so
Brad.
I would seek a motion then to waive the purchasing policy and to proceed with the purchase of the Interceptor from Stivers Ford. Would the amount be $48,025 for now?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Laverne, second by Misty. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Base?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Schreck? Yes. Bauer?
Yes.
Fordnero?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Perfect, thank
Can
you.
we add a motion for the sale, the cost, the sale price of the vehicle will be above, Randy might know better than me on this one, that we take it to an online auction, we would have to have a motion for approval to take it to an online auction, or to sell the vehicle separately, is that right, Laura?
Yes, I believe there is something in our policy if the value of the asset is over $1,000, council can then give us approval to use a different method than just outright selling it how we see fit, or how staff would see fit. Council would need to give us that approval.
Okay, so let's carefully word that motion to sound like we give the police department authorization to list the trade-in with Gov Deals online. Can you set a floor on that?
Yes, we can set reserves, and that's our plan.
Does the council want to set a floor?
That's up to you, but I would suggest at least 8,400 since that was the trade-in value. I mean, we could
Okay.
set it higher if we wish.
Okay.
What's that, Kyle?
I would recommend a floor, like Brad and I talked too. I think another thing to note is this has no cost to the city to list it on there, no shipping fees, no selling fees, none of that.
Okay. You want to recommend a floor? Kyle?
Yeah,
You know the market better than this old hag.
I mean, I think $8,400 would be a good floor. Anything over that's a win for us.
Yeah, that's our trade value from Stiver, so that would be my suggestion.
Anybody differ with that? So I'm seeking a motion to that effect that would essentially be to authorize Brad to list it on govdeals.com with a floor of $8,400.
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
Misty and JJ. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Bauer,
Yes.
Bordenaro,
Yes.
Schreck,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving to street closure and alcohol sales request. And Brad, I think this is your memo as well?
This is, I had gotten a request from the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Central Iowa, referred to as RMH, for a street closure on 5th Street between Court and Clark Street for a fundraising event that they're planning on doing to raise money for the RMH. They are planning on doing a bike ride that day also, and to have alcohol sales in partnership with Kerp's Bar and Grill. The request will be for the council to approve the road closure on June 10th, beginning at roughly 11 a.m. and blocking the entire road between Court and Clark Streets for this event. They're also, like I said, they're going to have the alcohol sales, which the liquor license will come at a later date. They're working through that now. But the road closure would allow that alcohol sales. I think we've used that in the past when we've had any alcohol consumption sales on the roadway that we've just approved it with the road closure.
Very well. So you don't see any other than just the usual?
And we've had
Have to
these
deal
in the
with.
past, and Noah Dryden's here too. He's on the board for the RMH. We've had these in the past for different events on 5th Street actually, and it's worked out pretty well. It's pretty easy. The street department provides barricades. We've had them set them up and take them down. Randy and I are in discussion with some changes to that, but we don't potentially see any issues, especially if Kerps is going to be the one running the liquor license, then they're responsible for it, so it becomes a pretty easy event. We'll also require them to do any cleanup before the barricades are removed.
Okay.
Just one question, for the remainder of the day, like, is that Kerps hours or what? I mean, I'm good with this, but.
I may have Noah explain further
thanks.
what
Noah,
their
you sat
plan
through
is.
this whole thing, you might as well comment.
That was eventful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Noah
well,
Dryden, 536 19th Place. Mike Anderson is with me tonight.
Hey, Mike.
Tim Ryle, excuse me, Tim. They're also helping with the committee. We've been asked by Des Moines. Tim's family and my family have some direct experience with the Ronald McDonald House. They ask local families. They're doing an outreach. They're trying to bring awareness to the local communities that they serve down in Des Moines. So what we're working on is right now we're looking at a bike ride that would take off around 11 a.m. The logistics are not dialed perfectly in yet. We're looking for this tonight to be able to start pulling those together and start sending some information out on social media. But the bike ride would likely go down the Sauk Trail to Burita-ish. We're talking right now and come back. And that afternoon, we're looking at family activities. Again, this is not set in stone yet. Bounce house, cotton candy machine, tattoos, face paintings, that kind of stuff in the afternoon. And then we'd have 2 live bands. Where we're looking at one around 4 o'clock, a little earlier for the kids, and then one likely to start around 7 and run till about 10 p.m.
Okay.
We are looking to have volunteers that will help with the event and help with the cleanup of the event. So we would take care of everything. I would say likely before midnight, but I would give the buffer of 2 in the morning at the latest. But again, the ban would be finished at 10. At that time, we'd like to start cleaning up outside. If somebody wants to stick around, we'd try to push them into curbs or push them into the brewery at that time. And just something to add to Brad's comments there, we're talking to the brewery as well to see if they would be, and they're responsive and sound like they really want to participate also, so we'd likely be submitting to have them do outdoor sales that day. And what we'd be looking at for the method of doing that would be a wristband that everyone buys that Kerps and the brewery, after they apply with their liquor licenses, would be doing all the ID checks. And then if you have a wristband, then you could go to those establishments. Does that?
That answered, yeah, all the things I was thinking. I wondered about the wristbands ID, you know, and think about the dram shop and all of that. So, no, it sounds like a nice event, good cause, yeah.
Thank you.
So being you have June 10th, so midnight would be the end of your alcohol. You could use that instead of having an actual time.
Yes, I would say.
Yeah, but.
Is it a 3-day liquor license? Is
5
that
day.
5-day liquor license? So technically, the liquor license is for 5 days. However they put those dates into
If
effect.
they do a separate license, but if they do like just an extension of an
Yeah,
outdoor
and I
service,
believe last time was an extension. Both the brewery and Kerps did an extension for outdoor sales. But it might have been a 1-day outdoor sales permit.
I don't
You
know
got a
how
start
they do
time here,
that.
you don't have an ending time.
I
You're
hope
just
we're
using the
cleaning up
date.
by midnight, Laverne.
Well,
because I don't want to be up
Yeah.
past that.
But just like the thing
That's a
before,
good
we have to have it
question.
legal
Sure.
here on paper.
Yeah, and
So, Brad?
we'll be going through.
My,
that
I mean,
process.
we could always say till 6 a.m. Then we know it's everything's out of the way. And if it's open earlier, it's open earlier. So, but obviously liquor sales can't happen after 2 by state code.
Okay.
2 in the morning, 2 a.m.
Does that answer your question?
Well, do you need to put it in there?
It may not hurt if you want to, and if say 2 a.m. could be tight if they're still out there consuming alcohol and they got to clean up still. You don't want the road open for any hazards that are coming through. So it may be something where we have that buffer to extend it till June 11th at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever you're considering.
Go inside the other places.
Have you ever tried to corral drunk people?
No, I don't want to.
Herding cats.
So we add closing at June 10th at 6 a.m.?
I would say
11th.
at 11
June
a.m.
11th, yes.
and closing June 11th at 6 a.m.
Okay.
Should be sufficient, I would imagine.
That'd be great.
11 a.m.
It's good.
I'm sorry, what time did you say the
I said 6 a.m. on June 11th
6 a.m.? Okay,
and 11 a.m. on June 10th.
got it.
Okay, is there a motion to that effect?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Laverne, second by Carolyn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shrek? Yes. Bauer?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bordenaro?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, too.
Thank you.
Stick around, it just gets more fun from
Got
here
one
on out.
left.
We'll be taking donations here shortly.
We're looking for a fundraiser to make ends meet here, so fiscal year '24 budget discussion, and this I do turn back over to Laura.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mark. So if you hadn't heard, Senate File 181 was signed into law by the governor, which basically changed the rollback from 56.49% to 54.65%, or about a 1.84 reduction in the rollback. And this is to affect the 1/1/22 assessed values for the fiscal '24 budget that we are currently working on. They also, then with that law change, changed just for this year only, moving the deadline to file your budget until April 30th instead of March 31st. Next year's budget will go back to the March 31st filing deadline. However, as a result of this lowering of the residential rollback, the city did see a total taxable valuation decrease of just over $13.2 million. I have created, if you'll give me just a moment here, a spreadsheet that shows a little bit of information on what impact this does have. And you guys aren't seeing it just yet, are you? Give me just a moment. basically, when this comes up, it will, I have an idea.
Getting closer.
Yep. Let me try this.
There you go.
Okay.
Almost. There you go.
Okay. Okay, so this does a couple different comparisons. So this top portion is what was currently discussed with council in our budget proposal that we discussed in January. The levy rate at $11.89, the tax asking of $6.2 million. That was also the max levy public hearing that we held.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago? Was that 2 weeks ago? Okay, 2 weeks ago. So that was the current information. This next section right here says, okay, now we've got new taxable valuations, but what would the revenue look like if we kept the same tax levy? And then what is that difference in the revenue? There in the red, you see the difference of the revenue by the different components of our levy. So overall, it shows roughly $156,000 decrease in revenue if we did not change the levy. The next comparison says, well, let's see what the levy does if we ask for the same tax dollars. The levy would go up roughly 30 cents. The levy would to $12.20. Then staff kind of talked a little bit in the office, and this last portion is what we would want council to possibly consider. Is looking at trying to keep the revenue asking the same for these first three components, which was the portion of the levy that we held the public hearing at for the max levy. Then possibly allowing the revenue to change for the debt service component. For a couple years now, we've been trying to look at the debt service levy and keeping that at about $1.40 and then structuring our debt within that. I have emailed PFM and did leave a voicemail today. I have not heard back from Suzanne at PFM about how this restructuring of this debt would look like if we did that.
Laura, one thing to mention, that adjusted budget, same revenue, has a higher levy on the debt service of 4 cents. It's $1.44 as opposed to the $1.40.
Oh, yeah, this
Yeah,
example.
I just wanted to make sure everybody saw that. And then when you come back to that bottom one of the adjusted budget recommendation, we're bringing it back down to the original debt service levy of 1.408, which we're waiting to get information back from Suzanne Gerlach about how long that extends the repayment period then.
Right.
And then we gained the $18,000 back, basically, right? Or it has an $18,000 impact on the budget.
Right, yes, it would be roughly. Now, I don't know if we're gonna exactly land at that $1.40 when we restructure this debt, but we'll try, or that $1.4800, $1.40800. It may not be exactly that when the debt gets restructured. So this could be fluid, or will be fluid. That's not set in stone at this point. But by doing that, then it's a decrease in the revenue of just over $18,000. It is an increase in the levy of 27 cents to be at $12.16, or almost $12.17, from what was originally proposed back in January. These comparisons were all based upon what the change was on the original proposal to council. Not a comparison to last year's stuff. It's just based upon the proposal that we talked about back in January. So what does that do? Like if council said, okay, I can understand where you're coming from, and if we look at that $12.17 or 16 cent levy, this is what it would do to a property tax payer at this first option. Okay, so the first two columns here is the same information that was in our budget book prior. The actual information from fiscal 22 and what's in fiscal 23, and then there's a divide here, and then I showed the two different things where The very far right column is the proposed budget that we talked about in January. So that was that's currently in your budget book. And the difference in the change is based upon the change from the fiscal 23 information. So that column, that far right, did not change. What I added was this adjusted column, put in the new residential rollback that was passed with the Senate File 181. And then if you went with the $12.16 for the tax rate or the levy, what that would look like for a property tax bill, and then the comparison, the change from the fiscal 23 information. So it shows, because the rollback went down 1.84%, even though the levy here is an increase over what was proposed, it is a decrease from last year, or a decrease from the proposal.
Can you, and maybe you're headed this direction, can you explain what the advantage to the city is to have the higher levy based on Senate Study Bill 1124, Senate File 356?
As we don't know for sure where that bill is going, so Jeff is talking about another bill that is currently being discussed at the state on a property tax reform bill. And what they are trying to do, at least my understanding and what information I'm trying to understand from the league and how they're trying to understand the way the laws or the current bill is written, is put a cap on the tax dollars, a percent increase on the tax dollars you could ask for year over year. If you are at the 810 or below, your tax dollars requested would be limited to 3.25%. If you are at a levy that's 810 or above, because you have the emergency levy, let me take a quick step back. What levies they're looking at are ones that, in our case, it does not take into account the tort liability or the pension or the employee benefits.
Right.
Excuse me, employee benefits. Those are outside of this. Then there's a whole bunch of other levies. There's probably 15 to 20 other levy components that a city could have or could be asking for tax dollars. The most common ones are your 810 and your emergency 27 cent. So if you have those in place, what this bill does is combines all those together, and instead of having different components, it combines it together, and then you would have one levy and gets rid of all these other components. So then they would look at that one levy, and if you're at a levy amount above 810, your tax dollars asking could only increase by 2.5%. So if you increase it 2.5%, the math would be done for you on what your levy would be to drive down that levy. And if once you get down to 810 or below, you can't go above 810. So they're trying to get it, the way it's being explained from a legislator's perspective, they're trying to get it so it's a little bit more uniform across all the cities, and to get to one levy, one comparison, as you're trying to do different comparisons across the state. And there's also constituents that are telling the legislators their property taxes are too high.
One of the side effects of this, we're told, and we went to the legislative forum on Saturday and asked the question, and they didn't even know about this, but our understanding is if we're limited to either 3.25% or 2.5%, if we have a new subdivision like the one that's happening down south and we gain $5 or $10 million in valuation, if those numbers push us over that max increase of 2.5% or 3.5%, we don't realize that new growth. It gets basically what Laura said, it has a tendency then to push everybody else's taxes downward. And so my question of the legislators was, why would we offer tax abatement or infill housing incentive or any kind of development if we can't realize the growth that's necessary to put in the infrastructure, provide the services? And they both looked at each other and said, we didn't know about that. We'll have to check into that. And the one gentleman was actually the chair of the House Ways and or the Senate Ways and Means Committee. And so he was going to look into it to see. He wasn't aware of yet that was the committee that passed it out of committee.
So we do know they're taking a look at that. You might hear it called the net new component of it. And I don't think that was an intended consequence of this. So I think they may be trying to look at that and or amend it so that you do get to realize that gain, the net new value that you would increase because of new development. I'm not sure if it's quite in there yet.
And so I think, and correct me if I'm wrong then, one of the things we're trying to say is although we don't like the idea of raising our levy, more than the 4 cents that we originally proposed, in the long run, it might be to our benefit if they do pass this legislation and limit our growth. We'd like that limit to be on a higher number than the lower number. Is that fair?
That, and I guess the other reason why I would take a look at this proposal here is this was the tax asking that we talked about in January. And this is what, I think there was a consensus of council and the staff, that these are the tax dollars we believe we need to operate for the next budget year. So why would we want to potentially lower that if this was the original budget proposal?
So my question, when we were at Denison, I asked some people there, can they sustain their cities running at 2.5% year after, that's the maximum you can get, and that might be for a long time and everybody said, no, they can't.
I'll have a discussion with you after the meeting. I got some information about that today that probably shouldn't be shared publicly.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that is a real concern of all the cities across the state. And there's a lot of conversations going on with legislators about that and the way this current bill is written.
Yeah.
So, and I know the league is working through an effort right now to try to bring something forth that would basically give a position of the cities about if they feel this tax system needs tweaked or needs changed, is it broken, how would you change it? I think the league is working through trying to bring a proposal forward. This is what the cities believe is a better, fair, more equitable,
Reasonable compromiser,
yeah, a taxing system, so.
So for tonight, what are we looking for from a direction for the
Tonight,
council?
I'm looking for, yes, discussion from council on this bottom one, this recommendation of the levy and the tax dollars being requested, and if this is good, or no, you want to have more discussions. Because the next step is we would need to set the public hearing for the budget, and we would want to bring that back here for sure with one of the meetings in March.
My understanding is if that 2.5 doesn't pass this year, they're gonna probably get it to pass next year, is what they were saying. So you almost have to, you can't say for sure, but you almost have to plan for it.
Well, and at the meeting Saturday, the gist that I got from them was that this 1124 appears to be moving faster than 1125. And there's still some discussions about, and 1125 is the local option sales tax and the reduction of commercial, industrial, railroad properties from 90 to 85 to 80. So they're taking another source of revenue potentially downward. And again, while we don't like the idea of the appearance of raising the levy, if you look at the second spreadsheet that Laura had shown us, it actually is a smaller increase than what we originally proposed. If you look at the right column of 4.93 versus 3.66, the original proposal that we talked about and approved in theory in January was 4.93, but with the raise in levy and the lowering of the rollback, it ended up being 3.66. So the net, it's still a better situation for the taxpayer.
What did it do to commercial?
That's going to go up slightly, if I remember correctly, but that may be offset by this Senate Study Bill 1125 that brings it down again.
They're gonna implement that this year already?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it would start July 1 of 2025 fiscal budget. Yeah. The way it's written anyway.
Yeah, they went through it.
But the 150, taking the first 150.
That's there now.
value, it's there,
That's here
right?
now.
We gotta do
Yeah.
that.
So they've gained some there already.
Yeah.
And these percentages, I think, were fairly small, weren't they, Laura?
This commercial?
Yeah, this is commercial. So the original proposal did show a decrease, and that was obviously mainly due to this new the first 150,000 being taxed at the residential rate. Now with that rollback going down for that portion of it, but the levy going up overall, it does show a slight increase over last year's numbers of 1.42% on this particular property. That number goes down.
The higher you go, yeah.
Yeah, the higher you go.
So our overall dollars was like,
It's a little bit
was what, 41,000 less than last year?
on the original
On
the
proposed.
original, yes.
So
Yeah.
what is it gonna be now with this, if we choose one of these? Do you have that?
It's worse, isn't it? Because this proposal wasn't it 20,000 less than the proposed in January, give or
Yeah,
take?
it would go
So we're
down
gonna be
another.
60,000 less?
Yeah, because if you would go, sorry, if you would go with this recommendation down here, it would be, the 42,000 plus another 18,600 overall. Because the debt service is being proposed. I mean, we could look at, if you wanted to keep the tax dollars, what was originally asked for, which is this one right here, the levy would go to $12.20.
And then we wouldn't have to adjust the debt service levy.
Correct.
Another 20.
So are you asking, to try and figure out the levy from last
Another
year?
20,000 less. Okay.
I think he's talking
I'm trying
about
to
from
think
the
about what
original,
they'd be
from what we asked for and what our,
What was the total dollars we asked for?
the original budget that we talked about in January, the dollars were 20,000 higher than what this would produce. And then and that original amount was 40,000 less than last year. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
It
40,
was,
almost 41.
yeah, so the proposal was overall $42,000 less than last year's asking.
So what was
Yes. So then if you would go with the bottom here, it would be, the 41,000 plus
Add another
18,600.
18.
Yeah,
So if we went with the 1220, what's that then? What's the proposed dollars?
Right there, 6.268.
it would be the same as what was proposed.
Okay.
Original.
So it would be that $41,000 decrease from last year's asking.
And then we wouldn't extend the payback period on the debt service by moving it from 144 to 140.
Right, in theory, yes.
And so that saves us a little bit of money interest-wise and so forth.
Boy, if we lose lost, there goes,
Well, and they claim they're gonna backfill it, or supplement it even, like they're claiming we're gonna get more
More.
for a while, but the history of backfill hasn't been very
Well, they
promising. Yeah, it always
I know,
disappears.
I know.
But then what, 2044, it's back to just even.
As they're talking about it now, that's what they're saying, yeah.
I think we should secede from Iowa.
We'll put that on the next agenda.
No. I don't know. It's going to get more challenging. I'm sorry.
This has been a challenging situation. Laura's done a great job with it, and
Yeah.
there's not a great answer. What we tried to do with this is provide what we think is the best answer.
Thoughts, wishes, recommendation to proceed with direction?
And then what we're planning to do then, once we know how you want us to do this, we'll come back at the next meeting with new figures plugged in. And then in talking to Aaron's preference was that we then publicize immediately and approve it at the March 27th meeting, if possible. We could wait one more meeting, the first meeting in April, if that's the council's wishes, or if there's some procedural reason that we would need to do that, but that's kind of the plan right now.
I wouldn't see any need for that. I mean, I would just march forward, but just, we make a decision, give them direction tonight and move forward.
Does anybody have any thoughts, pro or con, about what Laura is proposing here? And I don't think we need a motion, do we? Just a consensus? Or?
Right,
Yeah.
consensus of
We want a consensus.
Yeah, we want a
Where you
consensus.
go.
Yeah, is there anybody opposed to this proposal? Or would you rather, I guess the two options we're seeing is the adjusted budget with the same revenue or the adjusted budget recommendation. And the difference being with the same revenue, the levy would be slightly higher than the bottom one, obviously. The debt service levy is 4 cents higher than what we've been doing. The bottom one, the debt service would stay the same, but it would extend the payback period because of the lower amount of money being collected.
Yep.
And the levy would be 4 cents, roughly 4 cents lower.
So if you went with 156,000, you're gonna have to make cuts.
If we didn't approve this, what we would have to do is try to identify places in the budget that we could either delay, cut completely, you know, low-hanging fruit, and this isn't, I'm not suggesting this, but we had discussions about all the outside agencies that we fund. That money would cover some of this, but I don't think politically that's something that we want to do. Otherwise, we start looking at cutting hours at facilities or delaying projects or something along those lines, which none of those are very popular either. And I think as some of you have observed, the original budget that we brought to you in January,
800 grand.
we had cut $856,000 from the original proposal to get to what we brought you in January. And I'm a novice at this, Laura's a pro. We were quietly proud of the fact that we were able to find $856,000. And then as we were strutting around feeling cocky about that, they hit us to the tune of $156,000.
Well, some of that you use local option sales tax.
Yes, so some of it was either delaying some purchases, we felt.
Switching sources revenue.
Or switching sources, funding sources.
It wasn't a full 800,000.
Not a full cut like that, but
Right. No.
some of it was a delay in some
Which
purchases.
motel tax did we use for that too?
I don't know off the top of my head for sure. Yeah, we're talking probably a couple $100,000 at
It
least.
was 230,000 are lost alone.
Oh, and you asked for hotel motel? Let me see if I can somewhat identify what I think it was.
Folder, that sheet that you brought in.
Well, because I know we even recategorized some of the fiscal '23 expenditures, so I mean, we're talking US 24, over 50,000 that was shifted to hotel motel.
We were $280,000. They shifted from there to not make cuts.
Or would you do the split screen again for the,
This one, so this is the residential one.
for the two scenarios that you have?
I'm sorry, which one?
Oh,
This is only showing the one scenario, I think.
here's the one, okay, for the,
Yeah, I did not do a comparison
okay.
of the, if you had the
Okay.
levy go up higher. Give me just a second though, and I can do it. So you're saying you wanna see what it would look like if you went to
oh,
$1, the
okay.
20,
Yeah, what, okay, what the,
so if I change this,
percent would be increase on whatever, the 200,000, what it would be
So it
for
went
the
from-
two,
so this highlighted cell was 366, at 3.66%, and then when I changed the levy to the 1220, it went to 394.
okay.
3.94% increase.
Still less than the proposed budget.
It's still less than that proposed, yep.
So I'm trying to figure out why wouldn't we do that?
Well, the change in valuation.
Yeah, we could.
What's the question, Laura?
Missy was saying, you know, instead of doing the 1216 as the
Oh,
recommended.
I see. I
Going
got
to
you.
1220.
Yep, yep. And the biggest difference there is the increase will be shifted. Prior to this, the majority of the increase was due to the rollback being at 56 point whatever, and the smaller portion was because of the levy. Now, the city's gonna be more responsible for the increase than the 54% of the rollback number. Thoughts?
I worry about the 2.5% passing.
Oh, I say we go with the extra slide.
I know, well, talk to your legislators about that too.
No,
You know,
we're in a catch-22 on this decision with that.
And the other really difficult thing is, at least some of the projections we're hearing now is the rollback for next budget year we get to work on, is the rollback to go to like 47, somewhere between 47 and 49% from 54%.
Valuations are going up so high. Part of the formula for rollback is that growth. And I got my love letter from the assessor today, and it was fairly significant. And I'm sure citywide, that's probably gonna happen. And that will have a tendency to drive the rollback down.
Which is why I always favor a lower levy, you know, generally, but that's just me. It's strictly council's decision. But if we can extend that debt service levy, and adequately so, then I would favor the lower of the two, the recommendation. I would.
You want to keep it at 140.
With the 1216 total levy.
That's my recommend, I mean, I agree with the recommendation.
But then we
I've been in with these guys, they're so sick of me by
is
now,
that
but.
ever
So you're looking
you know,
at
yeah.
12,168.
True.
You're looking at 12,168,
Yeah,
and then the 18,000, we just worry about it when we need it.
yeah, we still gotta worry about the airport too,
Yeah, I know. How much was that?
32
32,995.
plus tips.
Yeah.
So how
There's
far would we,
50,000 right there.
I got some ARPA ideas there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
We've got a lot of
it's
money.
perfect for ARPA.
how far would we have to extend our debt payments?
That's what we're
And
waiting to find out from
What will
Suzanne.
our interest be, because we may be working at cross purposes here if we don't go up to $1.44. I mean, what's it gonna be, a wash, or, I don't know, you're the guru.
How much money,
Laura,
or do we have to
working-
pay a bunch of money to PFM to change the debt repayment or
No,
not?
no,
Okay.
no, I can work with her to figure
Oh,
this
that'd be
out.
great,
Under our-
yeah.
We have a retainer, annual retainer with them.
Yeah, I'd like to know that before we say, oh, we're saving this, but really, long-term, we're not really saving, and I may not be understanding fully, but I'd rather get the debt done, especially if we're may lose lost, or who knows what they'll do.
Well, the
agree,
plan with the debt service, if
156,000
you
more
recall,
would be tough to
is
do.
we're gonna try to keep it at that $1.40, and
Reality
every
is
about
reality.
2 to 3 years, do a major
I
street
can't
reconstruction.
poke holes in this
Right.
budget.
And have
I just
that
can't.
debt
Yeah.
scheduled such to
Last
keep
year I
the-
did.
the,
And
debt service levy
this
roughly
year
at
I
that
did.
$1.40.
6,000 more is tough to
Okay.
swallow.
So would you
Yeah, you wanna
recommend
get
that,
into,
Laura, rather
you know,
than?
35 golf carts, okay, we'll do
I'm
half,
not
right?
sure.
And then you're still
I'm
gonna have
not
to
sure
do
what the
it,
right answer is.
right?
Exactly,
Well,
yeah.
I mean-
maybe find out from.
Otherwise you
her
never
how
catch
long
it.
Right.
we would have to extend it,
That's what
and
worries
what
me
the
about that
actual
Tuesday.
dollars would be.
Ah, it's ludicrous.
How long do we have?
We have to extend it, but we just make sure we get the king sleeper with the slide out and not go over 220 months with a 4.5% interest. Okay, can we do this?
I'll get all the money you can at 4.5.
How long, Laura, how long do we have to make this decision?
Needs direction, right, so that we can make it.
Well, since we do have that extra month, I'll be honest, since we do have that extra month, how antsy I like to get this done and get the budget filed, we do have until the end of April. So, I can talk with Suzanne, hopefully over this next couple of weeks. She was out last week, I did try contacting her last week, but she was out of the office, and I'm guessing today she was playing catch up. And so that's why she did not get back to me. So, I'm hoping that I can connect with her this week, and maybe we can have more information for you at the next council meeting. And so if you want to kind of think about this that we've presented right now, if other thoughts come about, we can definitely bring more information about how the debt would look. And then we could get a consensus at the next meeting and then move forward from there.
Laura, could you send us these?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Good enough?
Everybody good with that?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that if you guys are okay with it too.
I know it's confusing. I was like cross-eyed for a while looking at this stuff, but I kind of understand it now.
I knew about what they were all last week. This is the first time I've seen what the actual numbers are.
And maybe-
I knew it was gonna be about 18 grand, and you nailed that. So,
Maybe in 2 weeks they'll decide on the 2.5.
We might know more on that information too, yes.
Yeah,
I think
that would
whatever's gonna
help.
happen is gonna happen quickly.
Yeah.
Count on the worst.
okay, anything else on this? We beat it to death?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see, I think,
So moved.
no, we are at committee reports, they're in the packet. Comments from the mayor, I got about an hour's worth, Tom. City council comments? Comments from the interim city manager?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Then, Tom already made the motion, I think.
Thank you, Tom.
Is there a second?
Is a second? JJ, further discussion, hearing none, roll call, please.
Base,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Schreck, Dirks,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Bordenaro.
Did we wake you up there, Kyle?
Kyle, I'm proud of you.
You did good, Kyle.